I would like to start going to a few questions so we can get to know you better. I think you might have gone over this yesterday, but what country are you speaking from? Where are you joining us from? And what type of institution are you joining us from? Is it an NGO? Are you joining us from a university? Public entities? I want to take advantage of this opportunity to ask you to get to know, please fill out the attendance list on the chat. So tell us what country you're from and what institution you're speaking from. So most of our participants are joining us from Brazil here, but we have some people from French Guiana, Suriname, Ecuador, Colombia, France. Everyone is joining us. Everyone is filling out the attendance. Thank you for that. So which are the government institutions? The 11 participants. From NGOs, we have 4 participants, but I think there are still people that need to fill out the form. Hercules. This is already on the chat. If you could please fill it out so we can know who is joining us and from where. We have more people joining from government institutions. People from teams and companies are here. So we have people that have still not filled this out. I will now pass the word to Fatima so we can go to the presentation. Okay, Fatima? All right, Adriana. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone who can hear us. I'm Fatima Brito. I am a public employee from the specialized lab of forest products. So it's a center specialized on forest products at service of the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture. Today, I'm going to coordinate our working group, the working group 4, which will be talking about research and development for inclusive bioeconomy. I would like to count with Janaína's collaboration, Janaína Diniz from the University of Brasilia, and Anna Euler, Embrapa researcher as well. So the objective of our working group here today is to discuss the possibilities of promoting and applying actions of research and development in an interdisciplinary way in hoping to add value. And so I think at the beginning of this panel, we went through, the idea is to go through some of the research in bioeconomy. So today we'll go, and the working group will be focused on this. We will be we'll hear 3 different experiences, presentations of different cases, which I'll tell you about soon. And we'll talk about the scope of the subjects that we will be discussing here. The scope of the subjects we'll be discussing here are promoting national competitiveness for innovation and inclusion, also transition toward biodevelopment involving technology and traditional knowledge, and the promotion of social and technical and the expansion of bioeconomy, thinking of different sectors and productive products like energy, food, phytotherapy, bioactive seeds and artifacts as well, amongst others, promoting and diversifying this, using the use of residues in processing, prioritizing users and technology and development of solutions for innovation, recognizing the rights of those involved, broadening the reach of research and producing tools that are accessible and understandable and that can be used in capacity and training building, producing knowledge regarding the ecology of species in forests, also considering social, environmental, and technological aspects amongst others. And now I will tell you that we'll have three different samples of three cases that we'll talk about. First, Embrapa's national panorama of research with forest products and the experience of the yerba mate and piñón. What is the knowledge of building markets, quality markets for biodiverse products with Natalie from the French Guiana, and managing and Quechua management of their lands in the equatorial Amazon. We'll have two presentations, two people presenting that, both from the Kalari Association, Carlo Pozo and Vladimir Dahua. I would like to ask initially, we will begin. The first presenter will be Krishani, and I would like to ask that each of the presenters, well, the time frame was 10 minutes, as we mentioned, for each presentation. And in the beginning of the presentations, each of the presenters, if they could please present themselves, tell us about themselves, and tell us what the institution does, what type of products, non-wood products, or other types of research they work with. So with that, I will pass the word to Christiane Helm. And I think that you have her presentation already. I do have it. Thanks, Fatima, for those opening remarks. Welcome, and let's go into the cases. Let's start the panel. The word is with you now, Christiane Helm. Thank you, Fatima. I would like to start by thanking you for the invitation to be here participating in such an important event. It's an honor and a great pleasure to be here working with people that are so dedicated towards biodiversity and bioeconomy. So I'll speak about some of my experiences as an Embrapa researcher. Adriana, I'm not sure if I'm sorry, Cristiani, presentation didn't show up. I'm sure it will show up soon. I would also like to thank Sandra for the invitation, Anna Euler for the partnership that we're working with. As for these technical hiccups, it's no worries. It's always happens. Does it show up to you now? So will you be passing our slides? Yes. So within this working group of research and development for a inclusive bioeconomy, I'm going to talk a little bit about Embrapa's national panorama of research with non-wood forest products. So we'll talk about yerba mate and piñão. So Embrapa, the Brazilian Agricultural and Research Institute, has the mission of making solutions in research and development for sustainability of agriculture and benefit of the Brazilian society. We are located in 43 different units in Brazil. We have units in almost all the states and more than one unit in a few states. I am a researcher in Embrapa Forests, and I've been there since 2007, and I'm a researcher and developer for the Laboratory of Non-Wood Forestry Products. I also had my PhD in this area. As the mission of Embrapa Forests, Adriana, if you could please move back a few slides. Perfect. So our mission is to make solutions and research and development for for sustainability of and benefit Brazilian society. Here you'll see the Embrapa links and the Embrapa Forests websites. There are quite a few publications and books and technical publications, not only from Araucaria and Yerba Mate, but also other species. So if we want to access this and get to know our pages, welcome. You're welcome to. Productive chains of native species follow the principles that are already established. So if these principles, we talk about the quality of seedlings, spacing, climate change, all of this thinking from the perspective of sustainability, circular economy, and low carbon. Embrapa follows the Embrapa directive plan with strategic goals until 2020, 2030. So I'd just like to call your attention to some of these goals that are very much connected to this event with new technologies of adding value and regional sustainable development and productive inclusion. We have 8 strategic goals there, but I think these 2 are the ones that we're discussing here. Embrapa works through projects. So we recently divided in 34 portfolios of main subjects. So integration of bio units, of partnering companies, of institutions and universities. And as an example of portfolios, we have Amazon portfolio and the forestry portfolio that fit into the subject very well. We recently also published the new calls for 2022. And good news is that bioeconomy in the Amazon will have support of 4.3 million reais in the next few years, which already provides a good perspective for this. So the Amazon bioma is a synergistic model which synergizes well with economy. Biosystems are important for the Amazon. Native species like acai, cacao, cupuaçu, nuts, and honey that are grown in the shade of the forest trees. Here is some stats from the IBG of the yearly variation and value of products from bioextractivism. We see acai leading the way of bioextractables, and then yerba mate comes next with important participation as well. After that, followed by the Brazil nut, pinhão, and pequi. So the South with yerba mate and pinhão nuts are very influenced the extractivism of these native species. So when we talk about yerba mate, we have one of the main leading roles of this. We're focused on native species, and my area is directed at the lab work. So I work with labs. I'm responsible for the chemical characterization of native species. And for erva mate, we have native erva mate, which is cultivated in vegetation houses and in agroforestry systems. What we've noticed is that the Bideclis yerba, given its, what we highlight is that it's a species which is very rich in bioactive composts and needs to be considered for the application and development of new technologies for new products. And we see yerba mate going abroad. It's already very well known. And we have all of this production of yerba mate. We need to move forward with research in new products, yerba mate besides chimarrão. And we need to have our own technologies and add value to consumers. You can pass the slide, Adriana. Vision for the future. So we see that we have all of these bioactive composts besides the proteins. We work with a circular economy model. So whenever we're talking about forestry products, we're not thinking just about the powders which are being commercialized, but we also are consistently looking at waste or subproducts, because all of these subproducts and all of the chain can be valued and can also add value with the development of new processes. Today we have commercial products, many commercial products of yerba mate that we have developed with students, developed new processes of extraction. So they've already established, regionally established, yerba mate's importance in products, especially in the south and southeast of Brazil. Here are a few more products in the cosmetics department, supplements, energy products. So we have found in different brands, different products with the yerba mate addition, especially in, for example, sodas or sports drinks. And the yerba mate is an energy drink, and it's very healthy. And even in Rio de Janeiro, it's drunken widely. We have many different perspectives for the future. So as I mentioned, the bioactive compost and medicinal properties, antioxidants, and the green color when substituting synthetic dyes and adding value to different products can be called innovation and development of new products and technological, pharmaceutical, and cosmetic applications. And Embrapa has also done a lot of work in genetic improvement, and especially in silviculture, to increase productivity. So we have publications about the advance of this technology, which has already been able to go from 6 tons per acre for 20 tons per acre. So it's a species where there's a lot of research that is advancing quickly. And pinhão, which is a seed of the araucaria, the Paraná pinheiro, or pine, Brazilian pine, is also very strong in the south of Brazil. So we have the seeds, which are edible, the edible seeds of this native tree. And also we work with a circular economy model where everything from the araucaria tree, we take advantage of all the ingredients in the araucaria tree that can then be applied in a product or technology to not generate any type of residue. I would ask you to please close in 2 minutes if you don't mind. Okay, that's the last of, this is the last comment. So research has also moved forward a lot with the genetic improvement for the early araucaria plantations, where thanks to the technology which is being implemented, the pinhão production has also been able to decrease its time in forming pines, which usually takes a very long time, 30 years. So with the early araucaria trees, we are able to speed up this process. So it's a forest of these trees. This has worked very well. These type of plantations are a great pride for us in the South, because we have been able to We've been able to wait for a whole generation to obtain the fruits and seeds, and now moving forward with this innovation. Here are the commercial products from pre-cooked pines, that's frozen, beers, bread, um, conservations, and also the pinhão in natura, which is very eaten during this period of time. With the research we developed, we approved a project last year which talks about the full use of pinhão seeds in the diet. So it talks about the concept of circular economy and the potential of each part of the seeds. So the seeds, the peels, the leftovers, as well as pinhão. So very strong bioactive composts coming from the peels and from the amendoas, or the seeds themselves. So let's jump to my last slide. Pinhão has a very rich nutritional composition, fibers, which can be used in diets, carbohydrates, also essential amino acids, enolic composts from the seed, which can substitute the artificial dyes as well as vitamins. And the perspectives for the future also, given the nutritional composition and the rich antioxidant composition, the processes, the products, adding value to pinhão and the diversification of products, this potential which can be explored and propagating the species, capacity building of the internal agents, and the technology of products and processes. Moving to the last slide here, Adriana, and the challenges and opportunities which I think will the working group here today will be able to deal with are, for example, the productive expanding the productive capacity of these species, adding value to the products, research focused on sustainable bioeconomy. Next slide. Well, thank you for your attention. I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've learned with this, and that's what I had to share with you so far. Thank you, Cristiane. Fatima, please. Thank you, Cristiane. So it's a lot of information, so little time, 10 minutes to tell us so much. I'm sorry, I had to really speed through that. So I know you went only a few minutes overboard, but thanks for the presentation. At the end, we'll go to questions and answers. And now there's someone who asked a question in the chat about a link that you mentioned. If it's a public access link and you could put it on the chat, I would thank you for that. I'll put it up, yes. Now we'll have a presentation from the subject, Açaí Ação, co-constructing quality markets for social biodiversity products. The presenter is Nathalie Cialdella from Sihaji, French Guiana. And thank you for that. Thank you, Nathalie, for being here with us, sharing your knowledge. And also thank you to everyone who has been participating in this working group. The word is with you, Nathalie. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. While Adriana opens my presentation, please. Hi, Adriana. Thanks. I think you're going to share my slides. So I'll start by presenting myself, making my mini bio. I am Nathalie. I'm an agronomer of Sian. So it's a French institution that works together with 100 different countries around the world. And with this, I started working in Brazil, specifically at Embrapa in 2010. I worked at Embrapa CTAC for 2 years, and then for 7 years, I worked in partnership with Embrapa, Belém, and Amapá. And it was during this work that we collectively submitted this project, Açaí Ação, which is a project of regional cooperation between Suriname, Amapá, and the French Guiana. And now we're speaking with French Guiana about this to coordinate this, but I'm still in the Amazon, close to Amapá and Pará. So that's a little bit of what we do. I work specifically with I'm an agronomer, but I work with changes changes to practices, people's practices, especially those working in the field, with a broader notion of agriculture. That's it. And in this case, the presentation that I'm going to make here represents the fruit of a collective effort. So I would like to thank you for the invitation. It's obviously an honor to be able to speak here and share with you a little bit of our experience. I hope this experience can somehow contribute to collective advances of the forum. Thank you very much. I think you can pass to the next slide now. I'm going to breeze through this subject of acai because everyone knows it so well. But I'll tell you that what called our attention to this and why we chose this product over other products to work on the issue of economic inclusion and development. This is actually what excites our research group and what we're very interested in. So we talk a lot about the acai boom, and we would like to mention with this that acai is always a essential component in our diets and in the Amazon culture, the Amazon in general. Despite data being very questionable, let's say, there's some debate on the robustness and the validity of data. We can see that from 2019 to in the last 3 years, when acai was registered just as an extractivist product, now the volume has increased 10 times. So we can see that this is a phenomenon which is of utmost importance. But still, from our data sources, we consider that 60% of this volume is still consumed in the Amazon, being that 40% are going to other states in Brazil or abroad. So I think I would like to say that the growth of acai happens abroad as well as within the Amazon. And that's an important point to make here, something that we've been specifically assessing. So this story is very important, the story of how we've been able to tie up this project. So that would be the next one. Yes, perfect. So wasn't there another slide before this? I think you've skipped a slide. Or is this it? Sorry for that. All right. So it's because I think that there's one important information missing. So what's the origin of this project with acai? It also comes from, well, it also started from a research with 2 other colleagues about the flavor of acai. So we were talking about the fact that acai is it's not the same thing as eating the acai in the Amazon, well, as when we eat it in other places. So, well, we worked on this. And the first results showed us that, yes, there's a diversity of products, and that within these diverse products and associated markets, there is still a high level of invisibleness and informality of different players in the chain of production, and that there's also been deep change underway in relation to the way people and the fruits relate. So fruit as food and fruit as an economic product that generates revenue. So this caused us to not only work on what we could call the productive chain for a structured market, but we also decided to look at, well, a systemic approach, a territorial approach that would take into consideration the coexistence of global and local markets, considering that all of these products come from, well, that we're also researching these products. So besides this, due to demands from the French Guiana, as well as some partners from Amapa and Para, we experimented a regional exchange based on the pretext of acai, posing this in different capacity buildings scenarios and different places of exchanges of knowledge within the family schools. And thus to test if we had some methodologies or pedagogical possibilities that allowed us to express what we call empirical knowledge, which may be traditional, but may also be Creole or mixed with and already the fruit of different exchanges. So at the end, there is a cross-cutting question. I don't know if you can see, but I'm sharing with you only the cross-cutting questions that are all interdisciplinary questions in nature. So the questions, if you want, I can get into details about the types of disciplines and what we worked on, but I'd rather remain in the philosophical parts of the project for now. So with these results given and tested in the project, we also want to see what types of tools, if there are some specific tools that exist, and if there are some tools related to some types of knowledge. So which are the cases where this mechanism works, or the issue of certification and in the informal circuit as well. I see that I'm running out of time, so let me try to jump through this here. I think we can go through this very quickly, but to go back to the issue of if in the Amazon there is the knowledge that there is a social organization which is fragile for family agriculture, traditional communities, and that besides this, there's also knowledge of there's local knowledge. Acai might be an exception, and that's what also called our attention. So it was a common point that we found and that we tested, where we tested how we could base the strengthening of family agriculture and of the populations and traditional communities. So here also some results that we are publishing. So a lot of times we see and we present the flows of the logistics of acai from in the Amazon to outside the Amazon. So we zoomed into this, and every time we work, we see that there's a very complex flows of the fruits within the Amazon itself, be it for local consumption, well, we're going to call local consumption in the cities and in the field of the Amazon, and for the circuits of exportation as well. So there's a great big circulation of fruits and of knowledge. So this is to give you an idea of the diversity and the amount of institutions involved with the project. So since we wanted to support research dynamically and also according to the reality of what's happening in the field, there have been some very successful initiatives. So we joined 5 universities, 4 research institutions from France and Brazil. The universities are for Brazil, the Brazilian, Suriname, and French universities as well. And we also invited IFAN to talk about this. They're interested in this issue of valuing local knowledge and also preserving common goods. So it's important for us to have their vision and debate this. So crucial partners are also the families and also areas of technological testing and trials, as well as players from different territories, public institutions as well. And some networks of agroecology in the northern region. So I think you can pass, I think this is my last slide. So what we've been able, well, we're almost closing this first phase of the project, but what we can see in the Guianas is that in all of the places there is local knowledge, and local knowledge is broadly shared with all of the populations in the Guiana. So as a trademark of some very long-standing cultural exchanges, we also see that global markets as well as local markets articulate based on territorial dynamics and also based on a multitude of people working in informality. With this, we notice that we're questioning if some of the perspectives wouldn't be maybe considering informality as a characteristic with which we should be dealing with, or trying to find some spaces where we can protect this informality instead of always, for example, always trying to revert or formalize this. So I'm posing this question. This is one of the questions we're asking here during the project. One thing which was also new to us in terms of training and capacity building and of spaces for exchanging knowledge, these spaces, which are limited in time and space, they provide new knowledge. So for scientists, local knowledge, and for players in the chain, productive chain, but they also help to legitimize empirical knowledge. So the partnership starts working well when for quite some time. So our need to work on the short and long term so we can obtain some results. And there are also new issues arising. For example, do we need to professionalize or deal with informality? So since we're working with labor issues, access to resources, and social cultural issues, we are consistently asking ourselves if bioeconomy can, if it's enough on its own, or if it also needs to move forward and advance together with the concept of preserving common good. So I had one last slide just to thank everyone for the invitation in some of the languages of the program. So merci, thank you. Yanontungi. and I'm available to answer questions if they arise. Thank you, Natalie. A lot of great information. So we went a little bit over time, but we know there's so much to share, so it's okay. I want to thank you for everything. It's really been a lot of information in a little bit of time, but very interesting. Your presentation has been very interesting. So with that, I will pass the word to two different people, Carlos Ojo and Vladimir Nahu. So we have 10 minutes still. Each of you will speak for 5 minutes with a short presentation of what each one does. So please, a quick presentation, and then we will go to the presentation itself. I want to thank you, Carlos Pozo and Vladimir, for being here with us from Kalari. Thank you for sharing what you've been doing in the Kalari Association. And let's hear you out now. So whoever's going to speak first and present themselves, please, and then we'll hear the next one as well. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone here. My name is Vladimir Lawa, and I am from, well, what we know in Latin America as a co-op from Ecuador. We're situated in Ecuador. My colleague also, who is here with me, and who works at our organization, an organization dedicated to the production, commercialization of these bioeconomy products, as well as traditional products. Good afternoon. I'm the president of the Kaladi Association. We're situated in the Ecuadorian Amazon. For us, it is obviously a great pleasure to be here with you, sharing our experience and developing alternative chains of work and production. Well, with that, can you please continue passing the slides? Can you see the slides? Adriana, it seems to be frozen. Sorry, we have a technical issue once again. Can you still see this? Okay, yes, back on. So our mission is to sustainably improve the economic conditions of our associates, the co-op, and local producers by encouraging the production of products from the chacras, or what we call chacras are sustainable systems for cultivation, which conserve culture and the environment. We work with the concept of a production unit. Our vision and perspective, the idea is that we will be a leading community with products of what we call the chakra. So always working to ensure the sustainability of our production and the quality. We also have other productive families. We have 22 different communities in 5 regions. 95% of the families are, well, we're children of the Amazon, which we call mestizos. Our process is organized since 1997. and we have been, ever since the year 2003, a legal entity. We are a population of solidary economy, and we have benefited more than 1,000 families with the cacao benefits. We're formed by a joint of all the associates and partners, and we have guidelines, general directives, and also what we call the vigilance group, which has a president, and we also have our financial organization, which works with the production of biocommerce. Here, there's a photo of a general assembly of our general meeting. The entities of control and supervision are a co-op and association. So we have we're registered legally at the Ministry of Labor and also with the Services of Internal Revenue, and we're also associated to the control. We're careful with the control of raw materials and the Ministry of the Environment and Ecological Issues. So, which help us to manage our products with biodiversity. We have the controllership of the general controllership of the states, and we also have certification agencies. We are certified. We have international certification for our good practices, our good agricultural practices, and we also audit the projects and that we cooperate with in Kaladi. What does Kaladi do? Can we go to the next slide? So Kaladi supported in the processes of offering technical assistance to the producers in the cacao chacras. As you can see in the photos, we have an expert team responsible for this. Seems that the audio is also acting up again. I think their microphone was muted, but I think now we can look at the next presentation. This one seems to be, or the, no, I think the next speaker would speak now. Is the sound back now? Okay, yes. So let's continue. We've also been supporting cacao producers and families that are producing cacao subproducts or products using cacao and vanilla. And other news sources that we've also been monitoring. This is all engaged with the chakra system of production. So the Guajusa system. We also provide support for the cacao system. You can see and observe these photographs. We offer direct assistance to producers, to people working in the field. We help with drying and packaging and also sending the products, shipping the products, the cacao products. We're also responsible for the process of transforming and selling chocolate, and also coating and the cacao. And we coordinate all the products with the chocolate bottles, and we have different types of chocolates with different mixtures, some using cinnamon. And according to the market trends and tendencies, we elaborate and transform the products so that we have a diversified production. We receive and process the products here. You can see that we receive the products here, and we also dry the fruits. So in the chakras, we articulate all the production of what we call the guajusa, and we also ship it nationally and internationally. We also support the processing and benefiting of these, considering biodiversity, and we're working directly with the producers. Here we have a native plant, vanilla. This material is very important to us. We have been using this product in a process of transformation and packaging, and also sending it abroad or nationally and shipping it to clients. We're also responsible for training and capacity building. We have products and seeds. So these are families that work with artifacts and other products related to chocolate as well. So there's the tourist aspect of this also. When the tourists come, we share the knowledge of them of what happens, and a lot of times we have students and professors that come to in search of knowledge, and they want to learn more about the organization. So they deal with the families directly, uh, allowing for sharing our experiences of what we call chacagramas or chacaneros, what we call the people who work in the chakras, the products that Kaladi offers. We have different products we work with. We have cacao and grains, cacao nibs, liquor, cacao liquor, cacao covering, cacao butter, powdered cacao, cacao in bars, chocolate bars, um, guajusa in powder, and guajusa vanilla artifacts that we also, the farmers or cacao planters produce. Here you can see the markets we're already shipping to nationally and internationally, where the chocolate is produced. Not all of them produce raw materials or cacao, but we send to Switzerland, Germany, the Czech Republic, Canada, Australia, and other places as well. Benefits for producers. What are the benefits that producers obtain when they're associate? They have special prices, fair prices. They purchase raw materials on the field, and they depend on technical assistance also. They allow for sustainability. and allowing for capacity building for women and young people, benefits from the cooperation projects, plants, seedlings, renewal of plantations, capacity building courses. That's what we're offering. The strategic allies here, you can see our national and international clients that are important to us, NGOs, foundations, or even organizations of the United Nations, ministries of the Ecuadorian state, academia, universities that also provide resources to support and strengthen our work. The chains that need to be implemented and some of what we've taken into consideration, we see that forests are diverse and rich and can be very well taken advantage of in a sustainable way. So we know the forests, we know the food that the families have consumed in their diets and which can then have potential, market potential. Guajama, as we call it, cinnamon, which we also produce, and there are other alternatives that may work successfully. So I think the most important point for us has been developing an alternative which can go from small producers without changing the forests. So I think that for that research and development is very important. But we have to offer alternatives to small producers. Well, with that, I want to thank you for your attention. This presentation talks about the experience that we've had. Thank you very much for that presentation. It was nice to get to know some of this experience. Thank you, Vladimir and Carlos Pozo, for the presentation. Very instructive. And now the next step will be to quickly comment on the presentation of how the Quechua families are managing the chacaras. And after that, Janaina will quickly speak about the acai ação, and then we will hear from Anna Iller, who will tell us about what has most called her attention in regarding what the colleague Christiane Helm said. One thing that called my attention in this presentation, where we talked about the management of the chacras by the Quechua families, is the way you are so well organized, the way you have been in the market since 1997, according to what you said, and you the Kaladi Association houses 320 families and 22 communities, so it's a lot of people, a lot going on, but everyone is working towards a common objective, which is sustainability through the fair management of cacao for producing chocolate, vanilla, and the Quechua plants. I'm not sure what the name of the plant is, but I know there's a lot of caffeine in it, and it's the relative of yerba mate. But I want to thank you all immensely for guayusa. So thank you for your presentation, for the three speakers. Those cases were very interesting. And I would also like to say it really called my attention. Another thing that you didn't mention and that I researched is that the management of these chakras by the Quechua families. Most of it is coordinated by women. And I would also would like if you could confirm this information because I understood it, but it's something that I noticed you would say that you were saying throughout the presentation. So I went after discovering what the Kaladi Association is, what you did, and it called my attention a lot. So let's keep changing information on this. So yes, the chakras are very well managed by women mainly, and as well as the administration. Besides this, we have other products, which is guayusa. That's a scientific name. It's from the yerba mate family, and um, it's always been part of our work and our efforts. Thank you, both of you. Now I would pass the word to Janaina Geniz. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you to everyone for their great presentations. Since we're, reaching the end of a long day of a forum, we also yesterday followed this formula where we recap some of the important points from each great presentation. So we're researching. We know that the presentations all um, shared a lot of aspects that we can then share and apply in other working groups. So not only research, but I would like to highlight Asayasan and thank our colleague Natalie for the great presentation and say that, well, really, it's what she said, but we want to just highlight some of the great points. Asayasan, as I mentioned, could be in the working group yesterday where we were talking about capacity building and training because they do a lot of this exchange of information and knowledge. But their choices for this group show us something which is quite challenging, and we're thinking about right now is this idea of having interinstitutional work with institutions from 3 different countries, partner countries, and the issue of the systemic approach and territorial approach. So it's really a project that deals with local and global chains of production. And sometimes we see it's more difficult to approach the subject, but how these chains relate. I also talked about the interinstitutional part, the intercultural part, where they also involve different levels of cultural and traditional knowledge that are applied in different markets, the need to have tools to value this knowledge. So it's a project Natalie presented here for those who don't know. IFAN is a Brazilian Institute for Brazilian Heritage, Cultural, Historical Heritage in Brazil. So it recognizes the knowledge and the cultural and traditional knowledge is also protected uh, by this institute. There's also the issue of cultural property and also the challenges of the pedagogy of the different ways of teaching and learning. So one highlight to Asayasan is that Natalie mentions that it's an area where the meetings are always happening in time and space. So where there are stages, specific stages for meetings and not only virtual encounters or meetings in places that are not related to the participants or are outside of the scope of the places where they work and are. And also the importance of us legitimizing empirical knowledge or the knowledge of traditional communities as well. So we are discussing, maybe we won't be able to say if it's at the same level or not, but we do have a long-standing conversation about the technical and scientific work. So, in the third stage, Fatima, Adriana will also be conducting the third stage, and I would like to highlight these points, but Natalie can also complement on some of these points as well. Thank you. Anna Euler, please. Thank you. Obviously, I want to start by thanking everyone and congratulating the three presentations. I think they were very complimentary and they provide a great wealth in this debate. I feel very comfortable to comment on Christiani's presentation. So we would like to also clarify a question that came up on the chat and I think is very important to us as Embrapa researchers. Embrapa for the first time launches an internal editorial considering as a strategic area for developing research bioeconomy. And I would also like to say that I believe that all of the work that we have been doing in bioforestry, which I know that we have a lot of colleagues at Embrapa and a series of partnering institutions like CIHAD, Nathalie, Brazilian Forestry Services, and the Federal University of Brasilia also as well. National University of Brasilia, and so many institutions which partner with us and that can help to be part of this vision of bio expansion that Embrapa has for Brazil, Latin America, and the Amazon. So we are a great research corporation, maybe the only research corporation that has research units in all the Brazilian states. So I recently saw a presentation from our president in a roundtable about the economies promoted by the Getulio Vargas Foundation. And he said that when Embrapa was created in 1997, it was facing the challenge of making Brazil sovereign in food production. And in 50 years, because next year we'll be turning 50 as Embrapa, we were able to reach this goal. And today we're not only capable of producing food for our country. And now it's our responsibility to take over this challenge of bioeconomy in the Amazon and for Brazil as well. So I think Cristiani brings some very important points here regarding what we've been dealing with for in the South region as well. So these are chains that are not only in the south of Brazil, but also represent a culture, a food culture in all of South America. I think it's very important to highlight this. So the research lab has had this concern and has delivered this important information to society about the quality of these food types and the physical chemical characteristics and the sensorial characteristics as well. So this is something very important that we still need to get to know for many Amazon products, which is, well, for those who don't know me, I work in Embrapa, Amapá with acai as well. I'm also part of Acai Ação and of so many other products. So I think that the questions and contributions that I take from these three presentations to our group discussion is, what do we know and what do we not know? What do we still need to learn regarding our biodiversity and the bioeconomy that we want to build and encourage through Brazilian biodiversity? So what do we know from empirical and scientific knowledge? And how does this knowledge dialogue and complement each other? As Nathalie herself said, to legitimize this knowledge, this empirical knowledge that represents our culture, our Brazilian culture, our Latin American culture, and our Caribbean culture. I know that bioeconomy is very related to the values of our culture and the roots of our cultures. And I think and believe that, and will defend this, that we need to prioritize the research about the productive chains that we already know, but that still need elements and information so they can be structured and gain markets. Not only international markets, but the local markets and the regional markets. And also having the care to listen to local producers and in fact hear them out about what their research demands are. Before learning about what we don't know, I think we need to focus on what we do know, but which, as Kaladi Association said, they have been working with one product. Now they already have 4 consolidated products, but within the Chakra system, there are a series of other products that can be introduced, and we know that this is the case in Ecuador and Brazil and Latin America. So which products do communities already know and that we can help with in the production of short and longer circuits? Thank you, Fatma. With this, I would like to close, and I think we have a lot to talk about. Thank you, Anna. It's almost 10 p.m. So thanks for coming. With that, I would like to pass the word and the projects to Adriana, who will be directing us to the next steps. Thanks, Fatma. I would like to ask you to sign the attendance list. So the link is available in the chat again. And I think that after this next activity, we can come back and answer some questions about that are showing up here. We can answer this on the chat as well, some of the issues, because if not, we might not have time to take it. I want to thank everyone for participating. It was a really great conversation. I also want to thank everyone for coming and participating and being with us until the end of the meeting. We know that we went over time a bit, but I'm very thankful for each one's participation. Those who tomorrow there's more, so we continue with the end of the group. Thanks, let's rest and see you tomorrow. So just to thank everyone for coming, and once again, repeat Fatma's invitation so that tomorrow we're going to systematize the proposals from all the working groups, and we're going to close the event together with some real proposals for continuity. So I'd like to invite you for that. Thank you and see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. Everything's recorded and we'll make it available later. Thanks. Bye. Good evening. Pedro, I saw your picture yesterday. Beautiful landscapes. Thanks. Nice to see you again. Yes, great to be together.